It's almost done. Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Trophy Club Town Council meeting for February 28, 2023. The time is now 7 p.m., and I'll call us to order with all our council members present and a full quorum. We'll start this evening with an invocation by Pastor Barry Klingon of the Church at Trophy Lakes. Please rise.
Let's pray together. Our Father, we stop for this moment to honor you and to recognize you as the giver of all perfect and good gifts that come down from above. Lord, this is a day you have made. We rejoice and we're glad in it. We're thankful, Lord, to know you, to enjoy this day. I pray your blessing upon our city. As always, Lord, I pray that we would be a city that honors you. And Lord, I pray that you would honor these who give of their time to serve, to make our city work effectively. Pray for our mayor and for our council. Pray for all of our staff that work here. Pray especially for, Lord, our fire chief and our police chief and all of those first responders that so diligently work to protect us. We pray, God, always you would protect them in their duty. Father, I pray tonight that, Lord, all that we say and do would bring honor to your name. The psalmist said, let the meditations of my heart and the words of my mouth be acceptable in your sight. And Lord, that is our prayer tonight. Bless our city, we pray, and we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Now join us in the pledges to the American and the Texas flags by Councilwoman Luann Oldham.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay, we'll change the order of our agenda a little tonight since some of our guests have other commitments this evening. So first up tonight is a proclamation for March as Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month in Trophy Club. A proclamation of the Trophy Club Town Council supporting the month of March as Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month in Trophy Club. Whereas every year, an average of 144,000 Texans are affected by TBIs, which are often caused by falls, impacts to the head, concussion, stroke, heart attack, or any other penetrating injury to the head that temporarily or permanently disrupts the normal functions of the brain. And whereas the seriousness of traumatic and acquired brain injury is extremely far-ranging and the impact they cause can be devastating, these injuries often lead to significant mental health concerns, including post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety, chronic pain, thoughts of suicide, communication problems, vision problems, abandonment, isolation, insomnia, and much, much more. Whereas survivors and their caregivers are often left alone to try and navigate the long-term effects of this disability, and whereas Texas offers quality support systems and services to those by or recovering from a TBI, including TBI One Love, who provides education, inspiration, and connection through information, encouraging survivor stories, and those touched by brain injury, creating awareness, support, and prevention. And whereas an awareness campaign is conducted during the month of March to inform the public about the effects of TBIs, promote research on prevention and treatment, and provide support to patients, caregivers, and families across the state who are affected by brain injuries. Whereas this proclamation will help more to continue about brain injury awareness, prevention, invisible disability, and to extend support for individuals that have been touched by a brain injury. Together, we will continue to create better outcomes and brighter futures for everyone, everywhere, all the time. Now, therefore, I, Alicia L. Fleury, Mayor of the Town of Trophy Club, and in conjunction with the Town Council, do hereby proclaim March 2023 as Traumatic Brain Injury Awareness Month. I make a motion to approve the proclamation as read.
Second.
And I have a second by Councilman Monger. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And it is unanimous. This evening, we do have Mr. James Durham tonight to accept this proclamation. James himself is a survivor of a TBI and the founder of our local TBI One Love. Mr. Durham?
Thank you. Wow.
Where's Greg? Thank you.
Thank
Please
you.
say a few words.
If it's okay, can I stand up here so I can see everyone better?
Sure, if you have a loud booming voice.
There you go. First off, Councilman, thank you for the opportunity to be up here myself. I've met a lot of you during the Rotary Club, but your support is helping make a difference. For those of us out here, like she had stated, my name is James Durham. In September of 2011, on the way home from work, I was involved in a very bad car versus motorcycle accident. Before I continue, I didn't ride my motorcycle like Son of Man. For those of us that watch that show, meaning I didn't drive crazy, act like the phone was mine, most supportive, I chose to wear a helmet. But unfortunately, because of that bad accident, I not only sustained a severe traumatic brain injury, but I died on impact. That's right, I literally died. But thanks to the power of prayer, all throughout our DFW community, and most importantly, other areas, and the support of my family, I not only was able to return, but I started to climb to the beginning of the lifelong brain injury recovery path at an unbelievable outcome and an unbelievable advantage due to my injury that was not going to be an outcome at all. But again, thanks to the power of prayer and support, I was phenomenal, enjoying it, moving at an unbelievable ratio, an unbelievable outcome like I stated, which led me not only to meet my wife, Belinda, but also the ability to start my organization, TBI One Love. And since TBI One Love was started in December of 2014, we have been assisting individuals that have been touched by our brain injury with our positive form of hope, inspiration, education, and guidance. And because throughout our work, the personal connection that we make with brain injury specialists and the individuals that have to go down that dark alley, we have been able to have our voice be heard not only all throughout the Lone Star State, but nationally and also internationally. Brain injury is the leading cause of death, and disability all throughout the world. Just in the state of Texas alone, every 3 to 4 minutes brain injuries happen. And like Mayor stated, our average annually is 144,000. We have 500,000 individuals living in our state that have a disability due to a traumatic brain injury. When an individual goes through a brain injury of any kind, whether it's traumatic or acquired, stroke, concussion, heart attack, obviously a car wreck, falling down, sports injury, etc., the survivor and the family's world changes forever. And it's unfortunate that the seriousness of brain injury, traumatic or acquired, like I just listed, are such spread far range, and the results would be extremely devastating. Survivors like myself and some of the things that are listed, we do have a lifelong physiological challenge of depression, anxiety, suicide thoughts, the ability of not knowing when to eat, a loss of hunger, vision problems, hearing problems, communication problems, and other difficulties that the individual has to live with based on their brain injury. And then on top of that, no brain injury match. We're all different, and as you can see, it's a individual disability. But by helping with this proclamation, you, yourself, are helping make a positive change not only in our community, but also everywhere, because it's helping others learn more about brain injuries. You're spreading awareness, prevention, the invisible disability. Everyone has a story, don't go to book by its cover. And most importantly, you're expanding support for individuals that have to live through this day in and day out, that feel lost, that alone, that no So I want to thank you all for the opportunity. All one expression of the mayor. This is an opportunity of a lifetime. And like she stated, it's honest proof. Together, we are creating a better and brighter future for everyone, everywhere, at all times. Thank you. God bless you all. One love.
Thank you. Councilman Flynn.
James, he only spoke for 4 or 5 minutes, obviously, just now tonight. We were fortunate enough last Friday where he gave us probably the 30-minute version of his story, and it is spectacular. Spectacular in the way that he recovered, the passion that he talks about, his life journey. So just very humbling to hear, and thanks for coming up again and sharing your story with us.
Thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Councilman Monger.
I shared that video to the Trophy Club Rotary Club Facebook page, so anybody should be able to go watch it.
Thank you. Thank you all for once again. And Mayor, this is yours, correct?
That is yours.
Oh,
That is
souvenir.
yours.
Wow. I was about to take it,
Your
but
own
I thought
very,
it'd be like, okay,
very own
where'd it go?
proclamation.
Thank you all for the opportunity of a lifetime and a memory. I look forward to working more together to make life better. God bless you all.
Absolutely. Thank you. If you do get a chance to hear James speak, I encourage you to do so. As Steve said, he gave, what, a 30, 45-minute speech, but I missed half of it because I was just getting in from Hawaii. But even the last 15 minutes I caught was very impactful, and hence we asked him to come join us this evening. It's not something often talked about, and that's why we do these awareness proclamations, is just to spread awareness and get people thinking, because as he mentioned in his speech, it often is an invisible situation there, and people just don't know. And so the more we know about it, the better everyone is. So thank you so much for you and your lovely family being here this evening with us. Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you. And next, this is pretty exciting. We have our new Northwest ISD superintendent here with us, Dr. Mark Faust. And we're looking forward to working with Dr. Faust with our school systems. And we are going to hear about the bond issue coming up in the upcoming May election. Dr. Faust.
Thank you, Mayor and council members, for giving us this opportunity. I'm really pleased to be able to introduce myself, because that means that I'm here with you. And I'm very, very excited to be in this area of Texas. This is the first time in my life that I've lived north of College Station. So this is a big deal to be in North Texas for me. But just to introduce myself briefly, and then I'm going to ask Tim McClure, our Assistant Superintendent of Facilities, to guide you in a brief presentation. I'm in my 28th year in public education. I was born and raised just outside of Houston in the Sugar Land area, Fort Bend County, if anybody's familiar with that. And as I was growing up there and became a teacher, went off to A&M, went back and became a teacher and administrator, worked in my home district for more than 20 years. That was a fast growth district. It was exploding with 3 high schools and then 4 when I graduated. And then by the time I left there, 11 high schools. And I thought I knew growth. Then I went to work in Kerrville as superintendent for 6 years. If anybody knows where Kerrville is, just outside of San Antonio, the beautiful Texas Hill Country. And then most recently, starting in January, I was blessed to join the Northwest ISD team. I want to say thank you to Dr. Lillian Roush, who's one of our school board members, also a Trophy Club resident. So thank you for hiring me. I appreciate it, and I'm very pleased to be here and push the envelope for the next set of opportunities to better serve our kids and better serve the 14 communities that we represent in our school district. So thank you guys very much for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to getting to meet you guys, spend more time, and get to know you. Thanks for your service to this community and to supporting the ideals that we share of kids first in Northwest ISD. So let me ask Mr. McClure to join us, and he'll give us a brief PowerPoint presentation.
Thank you.
Evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council, members of the staff for City of Trophy Club. We're happy to be here. We're also thankful, Lillian, that you hired Dr. Faust, so we're excited to have him be a part of our team. So I'm going to try to be very respectful of your time tonight. I just want to go through some highlights. I know you've received the presentation, so I don't plan on reading every slide, but please stop me along the way if you have a question about something, and we'll just click right through here. So, of course, on February 13th, our board, after a citizens committee met for about 4 months, brought forth the recommendation. Our board accepted their recommendation and chose to call a $1.995 billion bond election for Saturday, May 6th. So Certainly, the first question most people have is, why did NISD call a bond election? And as you all may know, we are the fastest growing in North Texas as a school district. Certainly, this side of town, the east side of town, has grown out a little bit faster ahead of the curve than the rest of the district. 234 square miles is how much land we cover. And right now, we're sitting at about 33 to, I'll say, maybe 35% built out. So we've got a long ways to go, even though when you come to this side of the district, it does feel already built out over here, although there's still construction going on. The graph here just kind of shows you how that's happened over the last 20 years in 5-year increments. You can see that those enrollment numbers have gone up around 5,000 to 6,000 students a year. So if you average that out, it's about 1,000 to 1,100 students on average every year that we welcome into our district. When it comes to growth and ranking our school districts, this is the ranking from the entire DFW area, all the fast growth school districts in the area, based on the annual closings, home closings. And so you can see our annual closings there at 3,500, a little over 3,500, well ahead of our second place district there, Denton ISD. But that's the top 10 list. And if you look across those categories, you'll see that we're either at the top or very close to being at the top in every one of those categories. Annual starts, inventory, vacant developed lots, so that's your next level of inventory that's coming behind, and then those future lots that are planned across the district. So then the next question we usually get is, how will this affect the tax rate? One is, why are you doing it? And then, how much is it going to cost me, right? And so we want to talk just a little bit about that, the two different buckets of money that our tax rate resides in. Maybe you are aware of this. If not, just give me a minute to explain. So we have two sides to our tax rate, the maintenance and operations side, which is focused on operational dollars. You can see the examples there. It's paying our salaries, paying our utility bills, paying for supplies. And then the state allows for an INS, or an interest and sinking side, which really serves more as paying off our debt service. So that's where the state allows for us to do capital program improvements. And so that's where the bond resides. So this bond, if approved by the voters, would be a 1/10 of a penny increase to that INS side. We don't control the M&O rate side, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But as you can see there, the current rate on the INS side is 42 cents per $100 valuation, and so that would go up to 42.1, so that 1/10 of a penny added. Currently, we're at the lowest tax rate we've been since '93, so 30 years. We currently have the lowest tax rate that we've had. You can see, at least through 15, you can kind of see where that started coming off. The state in 18 passed House Bill 3, which then started compression for school districts, and we are certainly being compressed. They took over that portion of the tax rate, so we do not set that portion of the tax rate on M&O. We get that assigned to us from the TEA. We do control the INS rate, and you can see we've dropped that over the last 3 years as well. And so there is a 1/10 of a penny coming back to support this bond election, but it's down just 3 cents in the last 3 years from where it was. And then if you look at just an average or typical home bill, I just want to point out how those values are assessed. Of course, we know the appraisal district sets the value of the property. And then even though if you look since 17, in this example, we used a $315,000 valuation of a home. And you can see even though our tax rate has gone down, the amount of taxes have gone up due to the assessed value of the district. Again, M&O portion of that tax rate of that $127.46 that you see there last year is set by TEA. And then the other INS piece is what we handle. So I want to point out, we're going to get to our website, so nisdtxbond.org. We do have a calculator on there, so you can actually, that's a screenshot of it, so you can actually take that bar and you can slide it along the home values there, or property values, and see what that impact would be. So for an average property, which hard to believe, but an average property value in our district, across the entire district, is $450,000. So that average property value will cause a $4.10 increase annually, roughly about 37 cents a month, if the bond is successful. You see the I said 450, but then you see on the scale it's 410. We've backed out the $40,000 homestead extension, so we just make sure we remind people to back that out when they're doing the calculator. Let's get to the projects that are proposed. So this bond by statute has to be divided into 3 propositions. We have a general prop, or Prop A, which handles our educational facilities and capital improvements. Prop B, which is a home stadium and field renovations. By statute, anything that seats over 1,000 spectators is considered to be a stadium event that has to go into a separate prop. And then Prop C is also by statute, any device, any instructional learning device has to be on a separate prop. Technology infrastructure can be in the general prop, but the devices have to be separate. So that's why you see the 3 there. 12 new schools are going to be introduced as a part of this bond election. So you can see them there. High school number 4 to continue up with the growth. Middle school number 8. We have 4 new elementaries, 2 replacement elementaries. And then probably one of the things we're really excited about is early childhood centers. The state has a mandate now for school districts to offer early childhood. So we're doing that currently. We're increasing that program currently at our campuses, but we really want to focus on centers where those kids can come together. And so we've talked about it for years. The big question was, where do we put it and how do we serve all the district? And our committee came forward and said, you know what, why not do 4, do them geographically across the district so they can serve those, the district as opposed to a single location and having to get people there. So that's the plan. Here again is everything listed in Prop A. I've got another slide of this. The Prop A's value comes to 1.672, 193 is the amount. I've listed a lot of the growth pieces. You can see on the capital improvement side, there's improvements to administration building, to Texan Drive, to our operations centers, to Steele Early College High School. There's a lot of infrastructure and life cycle replacement to some of our aging utilities in our buildings and equipment in our buildings. We also have equity and evolving needs, enlarging our high school cafeterias, our competition gyms, and our auditoriums to accommodate a 6A capacity high school. There's some turf replacements, some LED light replacing, some classroom furniture. Safety and security has been on the forefront of our bond elections for well over a decade. We have always had those elements in there to make sure that we're providing a safe and secure environment for our students and staff. Technology infrastructure is also usually on there. As we continue to grow, we have to grow our technology network and our infrastructure to support those additional campuses, so that's in there as well. On the stadium side, moving to Proposition B, so that Proposition B is a little over $300 million. You see home stadiums at 3 of the high schools, so obviously we currently have 1 stadium that serves 3 high schools. Our committee did a lot of due diligence on that work. We actually put out a phone survey to request information back from our community. And really, we know that a 4th high school means even more complex schedules for 1 stadium. So there's kind of the discussion between, do we do a 2nd high school or 2nd stadium that serves multiple high schools, or do we start to move that back to the community? And the committee and our community actually had a very opinionated voice on this, and that was we want it back home in our communities. So you see a high school stadium there proposed for Byron Nelson, 1 for Eaton, and 1 for the 4th high school that would be a part of this package. Each stadium would serve about 7,000 seats. And then renovations to Texan Field, that's our oldest stadium. It's there next to the Northwest ISD Stadium. Hasn't had a renovation in about 23 years, so bringing some of those amenities up, and then some infrastructure and life cycle replacements at the current NISD Stadium. I want to just speak real briefly on the home stadium piece, just to make sure that everybody understands the things that were considered when talking about this. And I think the kids came first on this. We have that as one of our core values, really trying to understand keeping kids in our classrooms longer. When you're sharing a stadium, that means Thursday night games. Sometimes it means Saturday games. And those Thursday games and even the Friday games, having to pull kids out of class to get them to those games. We actually pulled the numbers, and surprisingly, 14% of our high school enrollment is required to be at football games, whether they're on the team or a trainer or on the drill team or the band or the cheer squad. When you do those numbers, it comes to about 14% of actually the student body. So, and then the second thing that the committee wanted was really to create that community atmosphere. They talked a lot about eliminating traveling for home games. Of course, I don't have to tell you, Byron Nelson, you travel for a home game. Eaton travels for a home game. There are some games that you go to that are away games that are actually closer than your own home game. And so that was a big impact for the committee to say, we want to make sure our kids can just stay at their home stadium, go to their classes, walk out, attend the stadium and their games. The other thing this does is, as we've grown to 6A campuses, the JV stadium that's currently at each of those high schools is not filling the need when it comes to the spectators. So we're losing ability to have those spectator crowds. We're standing around the fences. We can't fill the bleachers. So changing that to a varsity level stadium then provides additional seating for all those other events, your soccer events, your track and field events, your JV sports, and then the scheduling challenges that come with it. So, and then the last one, Proposition C, I've mentioned a couple of times. The one thing I want to point out here is just the fact that those technology bonds, unlike our bonds for our buildings that are usually 25-year sales of bonds, those are 3-year sales of bonds. The only other ones that we do that on are buses. So both our buses and our technology, we do a 3-year bond on those so we can pay those back real quick. Obviously, we don't want to finance the expenditure for a technology device over 25 years. So there's what's in there. I just want to real briefly show you what's in the packet for this side of town. For Beck Elementary School, you see some life cycle infrastructure replacements, some safety and security items, and then device refresh for students and teachers. Lakeview, very similar, life cycle infrastructure replacements, safety and security element there, and then the life cycle replacement for student and teacher devices. Medlin, of course, just got an addition in the last bond, and the tennis court, which I want to pause for a second and just say thank you. This town has been very gracious. We've had an agreement over a long period of time to use your tennis courts. We are hopefully within a month of opening ours. If we can get the weather to dry out so we can paint the courts, we're ready to go. And in addition, those will be open to the public after hours as well. So that provides a kind of a thank you back to the town to say we've used y'all's for so long. We want to make sure that those are open for the public, and we do that at all our middle schools. So thank y'all for that partnership for so many years. But at Midlands, just some infrastructure replacements and the technology and the safety and security pieces there. Byron Nelson, again, got an addition to go to 6A in the last bond. So we're talking about a little bit of carpet, some rooftop replacements, safety and security items, as well as device refresh. And then the big pieces for Byron are bringing the rest of those core spaces up to a 6A level. So enlarging that cafeteria to handle that enrollment increase, the auditorium, the athletics, and of course the home stadium. Lastly, ballot and voting. I won't read that to you. Again, you have it in your packet, but there's the ballot language that you'll see. We've just highlighted in red the things that are different as you move from one ballot to the next, so you understand Prop A is dealing with the big package of schools, Prop B is the stadium package, and Prop C is the technology package. I would be remiss if I didn't mention we also have an election at our trustee level. There are the 3 places that are up for election. We actually drew names yesterday, so this is actually the order that you'll see the names on the ballot. Of course, all 3 of our current board members or incumbents are going to run again, but there's the order that will show up on the ballots for your information. I would remind everybody to register to vote. Make sure you exercise that right between early voting days or on election day. Here in Denton County, any location during early voting, but then your precinct location for day of voting. And then ask you to visit the website. There's all the information you need there. You can submit questions. There's more detail about everything I've presented tonight. Of course, the Calculate Your Tax Impact calculator is there as well. So happy to answer any questions and any other information you may need.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And thank you for letting us use Medlin courts.
Absolutely. Well, we can only return the favor.
Yeah,
We've
that's right,
used
that's
y'all's
right.
for so many years, so we appreciate it.
Anyone have any questions on council? Dr. Roush, would you like to say a few words? Absolutely. Well, our community is very supportive of our school system and of our district. So I encourage anyone that has any questions or needs any clarification. I know some of the tax language is pretty complex, and I know there's a lot of different ways of explaining it out there, but if you go to nisdtxbond.org and ask your questions there, or contact our district directly, they'll be happy to answer those for you. And I know there's several in our community, including Dr. Roush, who'd be happy to answer your questions as well. So I encourage you to learn about it and definitely go to the polls and vote. So thank you very much. We appreciate you being here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Mr. Carroll.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before we leave announcements and reports, I wanted to address some of the emails that Council and staff have been receiving this week having to do with tennis and pickleball. It's kind of nice that we're right on the heels of the district coming in, telling us, once again, reminding us that we're going to be able to use those tennis courts. That's wonderful. We did receive several emails from citizens, both for and against standalone pickleball courts being formulated or built there at Harmony Park. And speaking on the 21st, back on the 21st of January, when we met with council for the retreat, Mr. Jaramillo was sick and was unable to join us for that, and we had planned to present the park master plan at that time. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to bump that to March 28th, which would be our next meeting. If you'll recall, our first meeting in March is canceled due to spring break. So we will have that second meeting on March 28th in which Mr. Jaramillo will present the entire park master plan, of which there are about 5 different options for standalone pickleball courts, transforming the current courts that we have in some different ways for pickleball. So we're going to take a hard look at that. We're going to cover that with council. And just like we do with any CIP project, we're going to come with you guys with some suggestions on how we prioritize some of these needs with some of the other needs in town as well. Because we really want to make sure, as always, staff wants to make sure that we're good stewards of the revenues that we're receiving in and tax dollars, both sales tax and property tax, and making sure that the facilities that we build are for our residents, meet the needs of our residents, and don't overdo what we need for those residents. So we have a plan together to present to you guys, and we're looking forward to the 28th when Mr. Jaramillo here will be able to...
You say that so much better than I
I like to say it, too. It's like the only Spanish word I say well, so it took a long time of practicing to get that correct. But anyways, I'll take any questions that you have, but other than that, we will move on to the presentation on the 28th.
Okay. I just want to reiterate that the pickleball conversation has never ended. We've been talking about this for quite some time. But as different things come up as far as, the Medlin courts being available for use and for our pickleball community versus our tennis community, we have to accommodate, we try to accommodate everyone as best we can. And yes, we did receive a lot of messages this past week, but it was kind of reflective from the results of the town survey as far as percentages. So while we do hear more from our tennis players, we still hear from our pickleball players, and that doesn't mean we don't want to accommodate our pickleball players. Me personally, I'm more of a pickleball player. I am not spry enough to play tennis, but it's not about me, it's about the entire town. But rest assured, we were going to accommodate our tennis players and our pickleball players as best we can, and I look forward to hearing Tony's, 5 different options in March. So we're still working on it, everyone. Anyone else have anything? Joanne, I know you're big on this topic too. Anything to add?
Well, I have met with both sides on it, and I know that pickleball is so popular, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. And we do need to maybe increase what we have, but I can't wait to see what you've got designed for us next month.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now on to public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on any matter. The council is not permitted to discuss or take action on any presentations made. Presentations are limited to matters over which the council has authority. Speakers have up to 4 minutes or the time limit determined by the presiding officer. Each speaker must have submitted their request to speak by completing the speaker's form, or they may email mayorandcouncil@trophyclub.org. And I don't believe we have anyone signed up this evening. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve consent agenda items 3 through 5.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Munger. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Flynn. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And it's unanimous. Okay, next to individual items, our Community Development Director, Mr. Matt Cox, will present some information on a meritorious exception for the Art and Garden Festival banners.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. A few months ago, the Women's Club, they submitted their special event permit to our department for their third annual Mother's Day Art and Garden Festival, which is, shout out, May 12th through 14th. One of the questions that came up with Ms. Flynn, who was actually dropping off the application, was there a possibility to have more banners? And I told her that that's not really a gray area in our ordinance. It's very hard and fast, one banner. So we discussed it. She submitted a site plan that shows where she would like to have the banners in the area of PD 30, but then also throughout town. So again, we discussed it for about a week or so. She went ahead and submitted a meritorious exception. Section 309065 in our code ordinance allows only one banner. So they are requesting 8 banners at multiple locations near the festival and throughout town. Originally, they were 4x7, which is 28 square feet. And after talking to the company that was going to make these signs, these were like a specialty, so they cost more. So a 4x6 was just a normal sign that they could print easier, and so she went ahead actually and decided to go with 4x6. The town attorney has reviewed, has no objections. On the 7th of February, P&Z unanimously, a 4-0 vote approval. And we as staff recommend approval. They are public partners supporting, or we are public partners supporting the Trophy Club Women's Club efforts. And the applicant is present, and I'm here for any questions as well.
Mr. Bronger.
I make a motion to approve the meritorious exception for special purpose signs for the Mother's Day Art and Garden Festival.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Monger and a motion by Councilman Monger and a second by Councilwoman Oldham. Any more discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? And it passes unanimously. And I see Ms. Flynn is here, and Ms. Tiffany, would you ladies like to say a word about the festival really quickly?
Thank you very much. This is going to give us a lot more visibility.
Absolutely. Again, May 12th through the 14th. This will be the third annual, correct? Encourage everyone to mark your calendar. It is Mother's Day weekend. It's a special weekend. They have everything there, all kinds of art you can imagine, food, drinks, I assume again this year. It's been a great event. I'm sure it's going to be even better this year. And like Matt said, we are partners with our Women's Club, and they do so much for our community and surrounding communities throughout the year. This is the least that we can do to get people out and help support the Women's Club to help them help others as well. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up, we have our Finance Director, Ms. Denise DePrado, to discuss our updates for the...
We got,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Item 7, there we go. See what happens when I don't have an MPT? All right, item 7, discussion about amending our current sign ordinance. Mr. Cox, I was wondering why you weren't going to sit down.
Yeah, I like it up here. So in the last 3 to 4 years, the permitting department, we've been inundated with multiple special event permits, and after discussion with Mrs. Flynn, and then just also looking at the different ones, we've got TCVA, we've got Gallant Few, we've got these different groups that are coming in, and because of the ordinance and limiting to one banner, we would like to get, I guess, some suggestions from y'all on possibly amending this ordinance. I don't mind coming up and doing a meritorious exception. It's probably good publicity for each of these events. But just to enhance the awareness of these events, if we could, possibly have more banners. And that's what I'm limited at the staff level, is just the one banner. So.
Mr. Flynn.
So you're looking for input, obviously.
Yes, sir.
What is it, what do you foresee? I mean, you're trying to create some sort of kind of a shell of a program where requests like these come forward and staff would then have the ability to make the decision? I mean, it sounds like that's where you're headed.
Yes, sir.
So how would you develop that, and what does it look like?
So during P&Z, we also opened it up for discussion. We took a bunch of notes. You see that in my staff report. I think there was 13. They also, throughout like the next week, were just shooting us emails. Hey, what about this? What about? So if we could just formulate something, but I need to have hard and fast lines, whether it's 6 signs, 8 signs, 10 signs. We at the staff level can obviously look at the locations, making sure they're not in the right of way, making sure they're not on private property, run that through fire, run that through PD to make sure that, you know, all of that. So we're just asking for suggestions.
So basically, it'd be more of a template type situation. It's still going to be approval on a case-by-case basis because we can't have banners everywhere all the time, right?
Correct.
But at least it would be some guidelines for those organizations that do want to do it. Here are the rules. This is how you apply. These are the specifications have to be under, then to be approved.
Yes,
Something-
and I could also bring an amended ordinance to P&Z and to council as well.
Mr. Sheridan?
Matt, under the current ordinance, which allows one, that's staff approved. That doesn't come before P&Z or to council.
That's correct.
That's correct. So if an organization wanted any number of signs, just like we just did, they have the option of coming in and doing a meritorious exception, and there's no limit to that. They can make their own presentation as far as what it is, and that would be specific to their event.
Yes, sir.
And then, okay. Are you looking for authority or the amendment to include a certain number of signs, like, for an example, what we did tonight?
I think if council was comfortable with this, I felt like that P&Z was also comfortable with the unanimous decision on the 8, that we could go with the 8. So,
Okay, I'm not comfortable with that, but that would be just me.
yeah.
Any organization has the right to come in and get any number of signs,
Yes, sir.
and also located to the best advantage to their event.
Correct.
Okay, it's just a matter of procedure. Okay, thank you.
Actually, it's not just you this time, Dennis. I agree with that. I think that we're not inundated with requests, so I don't think it's a big expenditure of time to do this on a case-by-case. And plus, it does give some good shout-outs and awareness for the event going on as well. But I would get a little nervous, too, about having an open season for a number of banners for whoever, whenever. So I'm okay with, like, setting guidelines. Hey, this is the recommended guidelines you need to follow when you're applying for the exception, but not just an automatic approval if they fall within those guidelines, if that makes sense. Councilman Beach.
Matt, I was just wondering, have you reached out to any other communities that have addressed this and polled them to find out what their reasonings were and limitations, things of that nature?
Well, yes. So coming from Roanoke, we looked at each special event on an individual basis, and that's how we decided on that. So there was not a hard and fast number for each different special event.
Was it approved? It was approved by staff? Is that
It
what you're
was.
saying? Yes.
Oh, by staff, okay. Councilman Marger.
Well, this is the first time since I've been on council that this has come up. So I don't see the need to change it personally. But I think somebody wants an exception, they can ask for it.
Okay.
Councilwoman Oldham.
I agree. I think that we want to have some control over how many banners are going to be presented and where they're going to be presented.
Right.
So I think I would like to keep it the way it is.
Okay.
Councilman Sheridan.
Let me kind of clarify in my mind. A special event would be the Gallant Few run, or the meritorious exception for the Mother's Day Art Festival, something like that. But if you were to come in and say, hey, listen, we're going to have retail operations that want to do special events or special sales, and they need 3 signs or 2 signs, one on the road and then a banner on their their storefront. If you were coming in and saying that's a typical situation, I could go with that. Change it to 2, okay? But not for the special exceptions where you need a number of specific locations throughout town.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I guess the last thing is one of the things that came up was just size. If a event had the funds to put up a larger banner, you know, they would want to also put up one, you know, they did discuss on the Bevan or on Aloft or something like that.
Matt, that could also be a part of the meritorious exception.
Correct. Yes.
So if we're going to leave the meritorious exception in place, I think we can just
Yeah.
say that could be a part of that
Okay.
process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilman
Thank you
Monker?
for your feedback.
I just wanted to throw out there that don't forget that the marquee's free, and you can go online, and you can, and that's what we have always done with Gallup View. We've never asked for any signs, we've never put up any signs. Maybe that's why not very many people come to the events. But the marquee's there, right, so use it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, now are we on number 8? Now we have Ms. DePrado to speak to us about our fiscal year 2022-23.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of council. Thank you for your time this evening. Today, in front of you is the FY 22-23 compensation plan update. We conduct a compensation review annually to ensure that we are meeting council's strategic initiative of retaining and attracting a highly qualified and skilled workforce. In the January 21st council retreat meeting, we provided an in-depth review of the compensation study that was completed, and we identified 2 areas of concern. The first being all classifications were not at the 50th percentile of our benchmark agencies, and 2, a compression issue with employees and their salary ranges. So in the study, we evaluated 22 benchmark agencies. We analyzed our current pay ranges versus the data that we collected, and then we evaluated where employees were at within those ranges. So the plan presented to you tonight does meet council's goal of being at that 50th percentile of our benchmark agencies. It places employees within the pay ranges based off of years in classification, and this is a total cost for FY 22-23 of $178,000. For FY 23-24, it would be $356,000 added to the budget. We are seeking council's approval this evening for approving the FY 22-23 pay plan as attached, authorizing the town manager to implement the salary adjustments, and amending the FY 22-23 budget by $178,000, utilizing savings from last year's FY 21-22 budget. With that, I am available for any questions.
Councilman Monker.
I make a motion to approve the FY 2022-23 pay plan as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Monker and a second by Councilman Beach. And we have some discussion with Mr. Flynn.
Yeah, thanks. Just for clarification, there's really kind of 2 components to the discussion we had both in January and tonight. So there's the $178,000 to the budget 22-23, but there's also was a, I'll call it a grid shift, right? You really looked at where people fall in the mid-range, so that was the second piece of that, right? Kind of getting that right.
Correct. Okay. And Councilman Sheridan.
Just kind of expand on where the savings came from. In other words, we've got $178,000. Why? Because we didn't spend it. We over budgeted last time. Wade and I talked about this, and yeah, I think he's expecting my question.
Here he comes.
Yes, sir. So, and we're going through the audit currently. So as we're getting the finalized numbers from the audit, we do preliminary audit work, right? So in looking at those preliminary numbers, it looks like we're going to be about $300,000 under budget from last year. So that is a mixture of being under on expenditures and being over on our revenues. So between those two, there's a savings about $300,000 from last year's budget that would go into the unassigned general fund. And utilizing a portion of that money would allow us to adjust the budget and enact those raises that council looked at on the 21st and approved, or at least gave direction for us to bring forward. That would allow us to do that with money without taking money away from the FY 22-23 budget.
Okay, and some of your savings came from positions that were not filled. Therefore,
That's
the
correct.
budget wasn't spent.
That's correct.
Okay, which could balance out a little bit because we've got a budget coming up and we've got to add an additional 300-something thousand to it.
That's correct. I couldn't tell you today
No,
exactly
I'm not
what
asking
those
for
numbers are,
specific,
but I can
but I
get
just
those.
want, I'm trying to get it out, clarified what
Sure.
is going on,
Yes, sir.
even though we may be talking about it, me and you, not as a council, but me and
Yes.
you as individuals for the
When-
budget coming up.
That's correct.
Okay,
And
thank you.
that would be part of the expenditures being under, but any open position at the beginning of the fiscal cycle, we budget those at the mid-range.
Right, you budget even
Yes.
if it's not filled,
That's correct.
with the expectation it will be filled.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it, Wade. Thank you very much, Denise.
Now, I know we discussed this in depth at our retreat, and also, if we want to attract and retain our quality personnel to keep the level of service that we provide, we're going to have to be at least the median, and that's what we're asking for here, just to be the 50th percentile, not even above that. So I think I really enjoyed the presentation that you made at the retreat, explaining that all to us. So thank you for being here tonight. And Councilwoman Oldham.
Yes, thank you for being here. And I know we did the deep dive in January, but at that time I was rather surprised. We weren't hitting the 50% percentile. And I asked you, what was our turnover rate last year? Could you repeat that?
If I recall properly, it was about 29%.
In a normal entity such as us, what would you expect it to be?
The Human Resource Society that's most popular, it has it at about 15%.
So it is impacting. I mean, it's the culture, it's the work environment, yes, but I think that our pay scale having dropped below, it did need this adjustment. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any more discussion before we vote? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? And we pass that unanimously. Thank you so much. Our last item, Mr. Carroll is going to tell us about a new parking ordinance approving veterans with disabilities, parking spaces within town limits. Mr. Carroll.
Okay, thank you again, Mayor and Council. So back in January of 2022, the Texas state government changed the laws in the state of Texas, which disallowed veterans that have veterans with a disability license plate to park in state-recognized disability handicap or handicap parking unless they have the blue tag on the rearview mirror or the blue tag on their license plate. So what we're proposing tonight is that we would like to honor our veterans that have served, especially those that with disabilities. So we would like to add one parking spot at each of our town facilities that can take it. There's one facility that we cannot. So the fire station is parked exactly as required for its maximum occupancy, so we can't put one there. But we can put them at every other facility in town, and we're asking that we put a specialized parking spot with a pole and a sign for any veteran with the Veterans with Disability license plate.
Mr. Monger.
I make a motion to approve ordinance 2023-04 for the installation of designated parking for veterans with disabilities.
And now I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilman Monger and a second by Councilman Beach. And for discussion, I'm very happy to see us do this. I know that this community loves our military and loves our veterans, and we absolutely I want to take care of them. And this is one small thing that we can do to help, and I love it, so thank you for moving forward with that. Let's see, Councilman Flynn.
Just one quick question. How many
Yes.
spots total was it, do you know? I mean,
I believe it was 9. It was either 8 or 9 spots. It's 8 spots, actually. That's correct. It's 8 spots.
thank you.
Is the Veteran Memorial and Trophy Club Park included in that?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir. There's actually 2 spots at the Veteran Memorial.
great.
Councilman Beach.
Do you know of any of the businesses that wish to adopt this at this time?
We will push that out, but one of the difficulties that you have with businesses is if they are, just like the fire station, if they are parked exactly for their occupancy, then they won't have that spot to give up for this. But we will be reaching out to our local businesses. We'll do a blast alert out to them and see who would like to participate, or at least have an evaluation done to see if they can participate.
Yeah, this kind of started a little bit ago in a neighboring town, implemented a similar program, and I'm like, well, can we do that? But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of the space that they do. So we're doing the best we can with the space we have.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any more discussion before we vote? All right, all in favor? Any opposed? And it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. The time is now 7:54, and we will recess into executive session. Pursuant to the following designated section of the Texas Governmental Code, annotated 551, the Town Council will recess into executive session to discuss the following. A, Section 551.074, personnel matters. B, Section 551.07, attorney-client privilege. Okay, it's 8:10, and we will reconvene into a regular session with our Mayor Pro Tem nominations.
Would you like me to start? Go ahead. For Mayor Pro Tem, I do nominate Councilmember Sheridan. He has been with this town over 18 years, serving in various capacities, so I enter him as nomination.
Okay. And I will nominate Councilman Monger as the most senior-seated council person on council at the moment. And again, he has a long history of serving the town as well in our community. Any discussion on our nominations? Would anyone like to speak? No. Okay. All in favor of Councilman Sheridan for Mayor Pro Tem? All in favor? All opposed? Okay. All in favor for Councilman Monger as Mayor Pro Tem? All opposed? Okay. Go back into executive?
Further discussion?
Further discussion?
Or we can go to executive.
No discussion?
Well, if we're going to have discussion, I'll just, I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh,
We'll let everyone speak.
I think Dennis is an excellent choice, as for the reasons Luann talked about. Great experience, been around a long time, is passionate about being a council member. Don't always agree with the councilman, as we tend to all disagree sometimes, but I have every confidence that he will run a good meeting, he'll be fair, and that's why I support him.
Mr. Beach? I saw your name pop up. Did you want to speak?
Oh,
You cleared it?
cleared.
Okay. Luann?
I served with Councilman Sheridan on the P&Z, and as a chair, he has a very independent mind, and he's very inclusive. And he's very good, was very good, about going to each member and polling them between votes. And when there was a consensus needed, he was excellent in his ability to pull people together. So again, that is my recommendation.
Without breaking quorum, of course. Okay. Mr. Sheridan?
I appreciate being nominated. I think I'm independent. I think I have the ability to disagree with everybody and come across civilly, even though my tone of voice may not say that, but I try to. And Mayor, the Mayor Pro Tem is not going to be needed much because you're going to be here.
I know, it's 4 meetings, Dennis.
So, I know.
You know, but maybe I don't want to have you pointing and yelling.
Oh, all right. That's one thing I do
Yeah,
point sometimes.
you do.
But I do appreciate
Even though I love to point.
nominated, and if voted on, I would serve. Thank you.
Well, Dennis, you know I respect you immensely.
No,
I mean, come on, you know that. I love you. We have our special thing.
Well, as
And
I
it's-
said, I can
yeah.
disagree with everybody and
Yeah.
get along.
But again, you know, the same thing could be said about Councilman Monger. He's very neutral and non-polarizing as well, and has been here the longest, so I thought that was a fair nomination. And we attend the events together, we work together. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem have to kind of be a team and do everything and be at everything together. And Carl's the one that's there doing these things. And tonight jumped in and made all the motions. And again, it's 4 more meetings, and then the new mayor and the new council member can vote on the new Mayor Pro Tem. So, Carl, would you like to say anything?
Well, we got other comments on here.
Oh, I think I just didn't X them out. There it is.
I thought we were going round robin.
Go ahead, Mr. Beach.
He already.
Otherwise, I'll push the button if you want. There, I pushed the button.
Well, but then you unpushed it.
Both council members are both eminently qualified for the
Absolutely.
position. And I've worked with Dennis on P&Z. I respect Dennis. I've also worked with Carl. I will say that I am going to support Carl for this, only because he's had more tenure on council, and that's the only reason why.
Okay. We'll call for a vote again. All in favor of Mr. Sheridan for Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, all opposed? All righty, there we go.
Thank you, Carl.
All right. Thank you, Carl.
I appreciate.
I don't have any problems with that.
No, I appreciate the vote, and as I said, I get along with everybody and love disagreeing and making good conversation.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for
Thank you,
stepping up. All right, the time is, anything else? Do we have anything else tonight? Okay, 8:15, we are adjourned.